Yo, what's checking, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Orangebloods Modcast. I'm Jeff Ketchum, joined today by Jason Sukamel and Alex Dunlap. No Anwar Richardson. He's actually in San Antonio right now for a press conference with Steve Sarkisian that is going on literally as we do this. So we'll be providing updates on things that Sark says from the press conference. We just won't have Anwar here as part of the analysis conversation. Do us a solid. Make sure you go to deadsoxy.com. Check out all of their inventory of socks. They've got everything that you could possibly want in the name of a good Christmas present. And if you use the promo code Orangebloods, 30% off right now, deadsoxy.com, the sponsor of the Modcast. And also do us a solid, like the video, subscribe to the page, get notifications, tell your parents and cousins and brothers and sisters or friends, like whatever it is that you want to do, feel free to do that. We would love that bit of organic growth potentially. Fellas, let's start with what has been said at the press conference literally minutes ago, just in the name of what's kind of present discussion. Probably the biggest thing, Steve Sarkisian kind of not speaking as to whether or not Bijan Robinson or Roschon Johnson will participate in the bowl game. He also mentioned that Malik Murphy is the number 2 quarterback during bowl workouts, and this will be a really good chance for Malik to get reps that weren't really readily available during the season with the second-team offense. Those are kind of the main early points out of this conversation that he's had. Jason, any reaction at all to the Bijan Roschon part or the Malik Murphy part?
The Bijan Roschon part is kind of a non-answer, right? Says they're still working through if they're going to play. So no real new revelations there. It would have been nice to get a little bit more definitive answers there. But yeah, I think the Malik Murphy thing, I think was kind of expected. Charles Wright's still available too, but yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. I'm really curious to see what kind of impression Malik Murphy can make over these next, 15 practices? 15 practices, right, for Bulls?
Yeah.
15 practices, what kind of impression Malik can make. And we've heard Sark say Malik Murphy has really progressed and he's done a great job with the scout team. Well, now he's going to really have a chance. I got to think he'll probably get some occasional snaps even with the ones. That's not to say he's going to, he's threatening the number 1 job by any means. It's just sometimes they mix it up and certain players are running with the ones or kind of mixed in between. But I think that'll be really interesting to see what kind of impression Malik Murphy can make coming out of this bowl game, and then maybe setting himself up for potentially a nice battle in the spring with Quinn Ewers and of course Arch Manning.
It's funny. Before I go to you, Alex, I just wanted to follow up Jason real quick and say I spoke with somebody yesterday. An agent in the world of agents, he was just an agent. And he had been hearing that both Bijan and Roschon were not going to be in the game. And he and I had a conversation about the backs behind those two guys. That's unconfirmed. I think there's been a lot of conversation that Bijan wouldn't play. Remains to be seen I'm pretty certain that Bijan's not going to play. I don't know about Roschon, but it's interesting that there weren't really any answers with regards to the running backs today.
I think if they were playing, you'd think Sark would have known that today. Now, maybe he just didn't want to announce it, but I don't.
Well, he doesn't want to take away from their announcement, right? Yeah, like those guys will do it on their time frames.
I don't buy the fact that he doesn't know and they're still waiting on answers there. I don't buy that. I think he knows, and it probably tells me, like you said, he's waiting on their official announcements.
So, Alex, does that do anything for you on the running back front? Like, if I tell you those two guys aren't playing, does your excitement level grow because it gives us a peek potentially into what these coaches might be looking at from a 2023 perspective?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've gotten a peek of it, right? We've gotten some peeks of Jonathan Brooks, but I've just talked about, that's the guy that's going to be carrying the mail. Look, if there's no Roschon Johnson and there's no Bijan Robinson in this game, I know a lot of people think they're going to see finally we get to see more number 7, right? We get to see more Keelan Robinson. This staff has shown that they just see him as a complementary player, right? So I think next year it's going to be a lot of 24. I think that, it'll be some of 23, Jaden Blue, and then Keelan Robinson, I think probably steps up into more of a 1B kind of role as opposed to the complete sort of situational weapon he was this year, is like a 13 to 15% snap participant at the very most in any game. The only time you would see Keelan Robinson this year is if it was in 2 running back sets. He'd be a running back that was split out when there was another running back in, or these 2 running back in the backfield kind of sets. I think next year, or in a bowl game where we don't have any Bijan Robinson or Roschon Johnson, we could actually see some 1 running back sets with Keelan Robinson, but I think you would just see mostly Jonathan Brooks stepping up to take the majority of snaps. And for me, that's exciting. Brooks is a baller, man. He's good. So I'll be excited to see that. There's no way that Bijan's going to play. It's just, if we're being straight with this, he's not playing. He even said basically as much after that last game, that last home game at Texas, talking about how, it was his last game, and there were some little context clues that he had in his post-game interviews with the LHN folks that really made you think that. Plus, that's just the word that's going around. With Roschon, you guys might know better than me, but last I heard would have been on when did I tell you guys I was talking to that maybe Monday night? Yeah. I'm not sure that Roschon has even picked his agent yet. He's down to a few. I'm not sure. He might have picked it since, over the weekend or Monday. He's down to a few people that are all very good. But I kind of think maybe it's still up in the air about him, because he's probably going to want to talk to an agent about that, about whether he makes that, like what he wants to do with that decision. So I feel like the choice is made for Bijan. The choice is up in the air for Roschon, who's headed to the Senior Bowl and who's done everything a guy could ever do to come through for Texas during his time here. I think he's probably just saying, he's going to want to go ahead and talk to his agent once he sort of knows who that is. And those guys, of course, are allowed to select who they're going to sign with long before they do and be able to get that sort of advice from him. So I think that's probably what the situation is, but that's just an educated guess based on conversations I've had behind the scenes with some people over on the NFL side.
I don't know if it has, ultimately Texas needs to win this game against Washington. So the novelty of being able to see players, because there's a part of me, Alex, I kind of want to see a little bit of Jaden Blue in this game. Like, he didn't play as a senior. We only got to see him in kind of real limited snaps. So, there is a part of me that's like, let's see these new toys. Then there's also the part of me that's like, oh, they really do. Washington's pretty good.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you just I'm excited about it personally as a geek about the personnel on this roster, and just the way that we just pour over it all the time. And like, we're interested to see these guys. So for us, we love it. But, for fans, they're just like, what do you mean? Like, you're excited to have no Roschon? Like, clearly, it would be probably the better option would be to have Roschon available just from a pure football standpoint.
We've been hearing all year, like, the Texas running back room is going to be fine next year without Bijan and Roschon. Well, we're about to maybe find out, and be careful what you wish for. I mean, listen, I'm a Jonathan Brooks fan. You guys know that. I love Brooks's game, but that's a pretty big hit if those two guys are not playing against a really good football team that, as Ketch said, Texas needs to win this game to carry on some offseason momentum. It'd be a hell of a lot easier with one of those guys, much less both of them.
No, you're exactly right. One thing that Sark said moments ago at this press conference, and look, if you're just joining in, welcome to the Orangebloods Modcast. Anwar Richardson not with us today. He's not on vacation. He's nothing bad. He's in San Antonio covering a press conference that Steve Sarkisian is having right this moment. One of the things that Sarkisian said like 3 minutes ago, he praised Kelvin Banks and Cole Hudson and described the development of Cam Williams and DJ Campbell as incredible. We've been having a lot of conversation all week long about whether Texas, Tommy Brockermeyer's in the portal. There are some other tackle candidates that have experience and have been all conference at their various levels of classification. And there's been a lot of thought, like, would Texas dip into the transfer portal to maybe boost the offensive line immediately for next season? And I think, Alex, the only thing I took out of that comment was, he likes where Cam Williams is. And maybe that's a sign that they're not going to be super active in the portal with regards to offensive linemen.
I've always liked where Cam Williams is, even before Texas did. So,
that's true.
It's just like
Jason is the Jonathan Brooks fan club president, and you're right there as the Cam Williams fan club president.
Right. Yeah. I'm just like, what? where's the offer? Like what? Like why aren't you calling him? No, man, Cam's all. I mean, he's really really good, and he's so long. He's got such long arms. He swallows you up, dude. He's like an octopus with these long arms with these tentacles. It's just it's just so hard to convert outside speed to power inside. It's virtually impossible to do a speed to power conversion move on him just because of the way his body's built. And when your body's built like that, just God doesn't make too many of these guys whose body are built like that, whose feet move like that. It's really, if the development goes as the development, if Sark says the development is going incredibly, well, there's two things with that. It's like, one, you got a developmental piece of clay here that you're molding. One, right? And two, it's like, if it does happen the way that many are now projecting it to, the way that I've always projected it to happen, we're talking about a guy that's going to be, a substantial player and a substantial asset for Texas. And so it's nothing about Cam Williams with me saying, like, still, if you got a chance to bring in Tommy Brockermeyer, you bring in Tommy Brockermeyer. Like, to me, it's open and shut. It's like, it's all upside and absolutely nothing to lose. None of those guys are going to transfer because of this. And if they do transfer because of it, you're not going to want them in you're going to transfer because of a transfer portal guy coming in? It's like, is that really the kind of guy that we want in this program anyway? And if it was the kind of person who was going to leave, you'd have to think about what kind of situation that they were in. They'd be like, well, I've been recruited over. Well, you've been recruited over probably for a reason at this point, right? So Cam Williams isn't going to feel that way. DJ Campbell's not going to feel that way. NATO is not going to feel that way. No, none of these guys that, to me, would you rather have a guy like, I wrote in my column, would you rather have a guy like Max Merrill pushing Cam Williams? Or would you rather have a dude with elite traits who could actually end up being some kind of standalone player on his own and Tommy Brockermeyer? I mean, we've always said it. You can't ever have enough of these guys. 1 minute you think you have depth, and all of a sudden you look and you're like, God damn it, we have nothing now. There's nothing left in the cupboard. There's nothing left in the tank, and it happens like that. You got to keep stacking these players. You get an opportunity to get a guy with elite traits, even at a time where you feel like you're pretty flush with talent. You take the opportunity. It's like, to me, it's just very, very, very simple.
Alex, it reminds me of one of the things that stood out to me about your the last data dump in the deep dig over just the total number of snaps this season among the offensive linemen. Crazy that all 5 starters played more than 700 snaps. The only guy really behind them that had, I think the only other guy that had 100 snaps was DJ Campbell.
And he just got
right at like 100.
He only got there in that last game, right?
And then everybody else was in a real small area of numbers. It's a reminder that this offensive line played better than expected, but also got by probably with a lucky, if you don't have any of your offensive linemen all year miss any time due to injury, you've probably had some good fortune there. And I think that, they do need to replace Carrick in some form or fashion. Who's your third tackle? It's one of the reasons why I thought they might be interested in a portal, is it gives them some insurance against either Cam Williams not being ready or an injury at tackle. This team's still a problem. If Kelvin Banks, anything ever happened to him, either the reshuffling of what would take place at that point, or just not having somebody who could adequately, you could go to sleep at night knowing, well, Banks is out for 3 weeks, but we've got so-and-so to hold it. Who's the Hudson Card of your left tackle position? And one of the reasons why I think it's a good idea to go into the portal to get some depth is just to not have to necessarily worry this season that if there is an injury, that it could completely throw off the axis of everything that you do on the offensive line, because they really don't have depth behind. They have some young players, but
talent, but it's not seasoned talent at all. It just really isn't. So I completely agree.
But Tommy Brockermeyer goes to Bama and is buried on the depth chart. He knows how Texas is recruited along the offensive line. I mean, who's to say he's even going to want to come to Texas? He may want to go somewhere where he knows he can walk into an easy playing time. I understand what you're saying, Alex. Put the call in at least, but I think people just assume, he'll come to Texas because it didn't work out at Bama. I'm not so sure about that.
Legacy, and It's
but
he committed to play for Kyle. He committed to go to Kyle Flood.
Yeah.
I mean, I just look. He's a Brockermeyer. He committed to Flood before. He's coming back to Texas. It's just you put 2 and 2 together, you figure Texas is probably going to be in on this. And so, of course, we know that there's, it's like it isn't a lock. Nobody's even said that he's interested. To me, it's just obviously it's going to come up. The fan base is going to talk about it, and to me, it makes a lot. This is one time where it's like it really does. I mean, you kind of can start connecting dots. It's a very low cost, kind of high upside type of maneuver if you can be able to reel in that guy.
I'm not even going to put this name out there yet because you guys are hearing this for the first time, but a good buddy of mine from way back from high school sent me the name of an offensive lineman that's in the portal, and this kid's got some skins on the wall. He sent me this late last night. He says he's waiting for Texas to call. Best right tackle in the portal. I'm looking at this kid. We'll talk about it. He's already picked up quite a few offers in the last 24 hours. He's got official visits scheduled. So,
can you name
in chat? I don't care if you tease the viewers, right?
Yeah, I want to know. Can you send the name in chat so I can pull him up?
Eric Torres or anybody in the chat gets left out. Money out to Anus. I'm sorry that if you guys get left out, but I don't like being teased in real time. Interesting. Well, Jason, I can't say anything. I won't say. I've been waiting for that as well.
I don't even mind that we put it out there, but it's just like it's so fresh. I want to do a little bit of research. Like my buddy's literally you guys have seen me on the phone. Maybe my buddy's texting me. I'm going back and forth. And this kid apparently wants.
I think we're okay to say. I mean,
what the hell? I mean,
it's Jeremiah Byers from UTEP who is visiting Florida State this weekend.
Penn State offer. Redshirt sophomore, 3-year commit out of high school, started every game, grading out.
You know what's unique about him, Jason? 445 pass reps this season, 1 pressure allowed. Now that's
doing pretty well. Because Florida State, Penn State, Maryland, Texas Tech, Missouri, and Miami have offered. He's visiting Florida State Friday and Miami midweek, and he says he's waiting for Texas to call. So,
it would make sense. I mean.
I don't know if Texas will take an offensive lineman, or if they do, this might be a guy that they want to prioritize.
He's probably the best right tackle. He's a legit right tackle prospect who's played a lot of college football. It's got film, it's got tape out there that coaches can look at. Pro Football Focus loves him, which I always say that to get the visceral reaction of Alex.
You say Pro Football Focus loves him. I mean, who does that mean?
I don't know. It's just
wizard behind it. I mean, it's
very nebulous.
Yeah. Who is it?
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
It's just
somewhere there's a guy behind a curtain.
It's like pulling.
Probably looks like
this guy's
yes.
Good. I remember in Rolando McClain's last season, his last season in the NFL, they had him ranked when he was just brutal. They had him ranked. They had him as their top graded inside linebacker. I'm just like. Every time, man. Every time, it's like you guys just picking the. It's like you got. Don't even get me started. I mean, they say that Kelvin Banks is the worst offensive lineman Texas has and stuff. It's like it's the most ridiculous. I mean, who is this and what are they watching? I don't necessarily buy into that.
Again, I feel you know what? Sometimes you get what you ask for, and I wanted to see Alex react just to the words Pro Football Focus.
Hey, my buddy in the text, the part that I skipped over, he said Pro Football Focus graded him with this grade on 855 snaps. I was like, I'm not even going to read that part. I glossed over that part of my text message. But
it brings
Austin. Was it LBJ? Where did he go to high school? Somewhere in Austin, but not even sure.
I think. Is he the kid that went to Austin Anderson?
I'm trying.
He might have been. Like I've looked at so many kids from the portal.
Yeah. Yep.
Austin That's Anderson. Right. So he's the taco shack guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a guy that I would imagine he really is. You know what's interesting about Jeremiah Byers, Alex, is that he wasn't a football prospect coming out of high school.
Yeah, his huddle links to basketball.
Yeah, he was a 6'5".
Hold on. You guys said who's a taco shack guy? I'm a taco shack guy.
You are not. You have to be from Anderson or McCallum.
What?
To be a Taco Shack Bowl. We play for the Taco Shack Bowl.
To enjoy an El Nino or a Shack Taco? Get the hell
I'm
out
just
of here.
telling you, the Taco Shack Bowl is played between
right.
McCallum and Anderson. It makes them the official Taco Shack schools.
Got it.
He was a 6'5", he was one of these guys coming out of high school that was 6'5", 240, and he's a power forward. He's exactly the guy that we always see playing high school basketball that we think to ourselves, that guy's playing the wrong sport. He figures it out. He goes to UTEP, and he turns into he was a first-team All-Conference USA player this year. I think that's the conference they're in. But, yeah, this guy's gained 100 pounds in the last, I think, 2 seasons. And if you're Texas and you wanted a slam dunk and you wanted a guy that could help out, this is a local guy who has played at a high level at, a major college, if not a Power 5 major college, still a major college nonetheless. It really just brings to mind, what is Texas going to do in the portal? I was told earlier in the week that today would probably be the day where Texas starts to mapping out a real plan for the portal, that they wanted to see even last night, Chris Marshall, the 5-star wide receiver from a year ago who signs with A&M, goes into the portal. I think they're still waiting at wide receiver to see if Barrion Brown from Kentucky enters the portal, because there's been some signs for the last couple of months that he would be entering the portal. So I think Texas is still waiting to see what becomes available. I think today and tomorrow we might start to see some more offers come out. But on a guy like Byers, he's already going to Florida. You have to survive these opening round visits.
Yeah, that one is moving really quickly. So.
These dudes want to know where they're going as soon as possible. And if you see one of these portal guys taking an official visit somewhere this weekend, you're almost just hoping, if you really want them, that you can survive that opening weekend. Jeremiah Byers might be waiting to see if Texas calls, but he's not waiting so much so that he's not going to take his visit to Florida State and continue to explore his.
Apparently in Miami midweek, so that makes me think: is he a January guy? Maybe that could enroll.
If he can always cancel that. Like if you know what I mean. Like if he's running out of, most of these guys are midterm guys. That's why they are in such a rush to make their decisions. Alex, let me ask you: if I gave you, let's just keep it to 3 for now. If I gave you 3 portal spots, knowing the team so well, where would you go position wise if I gave you only 3?
Are there still good players at all these?
Yeah,
because we've had to talk before about edge and about how like the good, super good edge rushers just don't show up in the portal. Are there?
There are a few edge players. Ironically, one of them may end up in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Every position, some positions have more depth than others. Edge has less guys available than wide receiver, for instance.
Okay, so it would be one on edge, and maybe hope that guy might have some extra linebacker versatility, because one has to be for inside linebacker. And then Jason, how much do you think that Malik Muhammad could just come in and play as a freshman?
Yeah, he's every bit in the Terrence Brooks mold, probably more. You could even argue more of a pure corner. So, yeah, I think he could.
I'm sort of wondering how do you think he stacks up versus what you saw out of Terrence Brooks this year as a starter?
Yeah, I thought Brooks played pretty well down the stretch there when Jameson was out. But in terms of potential, man, that's a good question. They're really comparable, even in their ranking. I do think Muhammad's maybe a little bit more fluid in terms of pure cornerback, if that's where you're talking about playing him. But they're really comparable, Alex, in terms of upside. Yeah,
I'd probably give Malik a slight edge.
Maybe if you're talking pure corner, I would too. I think Brooks maybe has more position versatility. But
so I know I go edge
midterm too, right? Like that's not
who's that?
Really, he's a midterm guy, correct?
Malik, yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think that's the missing piece of the puzzle when we have this conversation, Alex, is that, if one of these borderline 5-star guys is coming in midterm, that gives them a much, 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 much better chance of contributing right away. DJ Campbell's now the poster boy for all positions that you can be a 5-star, but if you wait till the summer to come in, you might have an uphill hill to climb. I think if Malik comes in very quickly, we could see him in the mix.
Because I'm just having trouble decide. I mean, it's all on defense, even though they need wide receiver. Safety. It's just with safety, is Keaton Crawford or Michael Taft. That's kind of what you have that's played besides Jaron Thompson, right? You have Coffey gone, Anthony Cook graduated. Maurice Blackwell played 60 snaps last season, but only played 2 snaps at safety. I mean, they were playing him at linebacker. He's going to figure in at linebacker maybe again. Larry Turner Good only played 10 snaps last year. Brian Allen, I can't believe that B.J. Allen didn't play a snap on defense. That's it. You have Derek Williams come in. Dude, I think I go edge, inside linebacker, safety.
If I gave you 3.
Yeah.
If I gave you one more, are you going wide receiver at that point?
Yeah, or corner. That's when he.
Can I talk you into a punter?
No, never. No.
How far down do I have to go before
I gotta get through wide receiver and I gotta get through corner at least. And maybe
there's a first team all Pac-12 safety on the market.
Yeah.
Who averaged like 46 yards a kick.
Or punter, yeah, you said safety. Punter.
Punter, but he also handles kickoffs.
I was like, a safety if a safety averages 46 a kick,
that's my Freudian slip. I was thinking about that.
They should get him on board. Then you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right?
Real quick, Brandon Offerman in our super chat wants to know, do we have any idea? This is for you, Jason, since you literally, we were talking about this last night. Any idea why Texas offered Kamorian Pimpton, the tight end from North Crowley? He's a Vandy commit. Do we need another tight end in this class? Jason, do they want another tight end in this class, or do they want a healthy tight end in this class?
Yeah. No, another tight end. And good timing. I almost was late for the Modcast because I was talking to Ray Gates, the North Crowley head coach, about it. And a little teaser, I'll probably have it more in the war room. But, this is a kid whose stock has really blown up. I mean, Texas has been going, trying to get a third tight end in this class. But Deuce Robinson, that one probably was never going to happen. I got to think the writing's on the wall at this point. So the Pimpton kid's a guy they've been looking at. They brought him in for an unofficial visit. He's going to LSU this weekend on an official visit. 3.7 GPA, and I'm trying to find. Nebraska's offered. Colorado's talking to him. Utah, Washington, Ohio State came by. Obviously, Texas offered. His coach said, just his upside is tremendous. He said in 17 years, he's probably got the best ball skills and high point ability of any player he's ever seen, including he had the Franklin receiver that went to UTSA. So he said, man, it didn't matter. We had faced him up against Division I players at cornerback or whatever. They can split him out wide, put him at flex, put him at tight end, put him at H-back. Division I corners, they were like, maybe we'd be a little reluctant to game plan of getting the ball to Kamorian Pimpton, but they're like, didn't matter. He ate them all up. So almost 1,000-yard receiver as a tight end. So do they need a third tight end? The numbers would seem to say not maybe necessarily, but, they've been trying to get a third tight end. Spencer Shannon, the tight end out of California that's committed, didn't really do a whole lot. He's still unknown as a receiver. I was talking to someone or DMing with someone who was telling me, hey, in their state championship game, he really didn't even play because they were trying to throw the ball so much, and he's just more of a blocking tight end for them. So, they've got some unproven commodities at tight end. So I think they're looking for a more proven commodity as a receiver, and Kamorian Pimpton really fits that mold. Now, taking 3 tight ends in this class, Will Randall's coming off of an injury. Spencer Shannon maybe didn't quite live up to what people expected him to do his senior year. And I talked to someone about that, and they're like, man, that's more due to scheme than Spencer Shannon's talent. This person that I talked about in California said he's still a very talented player, but the scheme he plays in just didn't suit his talents. But, Will Randall's missed most of his season with an an ACL injury. So Catch, maybe you said it, maybe they need a healthy tight end. And the Pimpton kid, I want to go look at his film. I mean, honestly, I haven't watched the senior film. This stuff has been so fresh, and I was on the phone up until 5 minutes before we started the Modcast. So it's still fresh, but just in talking to his coach, this kid's the real deal as a receiver and just a real weapon in the passing game. So I'm sure Texas likes that.
Yeah, I mean, it also makes me think, I don't mean to call Juan Davis out by name because I think he's a guy that Texas needs to keep, but they've got 3 guys essentially on scholarship, not including the incoming freshman class. They're kind of down to 3. They've got Jatavion Sanders. They've also got Gunnar Helm, and they've got Juan Davis. If they're taking 3, kind of just makes me wonder, what do they think about Juan Davis coming off of injury? Or is he a guy that they think by the time August rolls around isn't in the program? Again, I'm a big Juan Davis guy. So of all the guys I think that have entered the portal so far this month, I think there's been 8 of them. Davis might be the first guy that I would go, whoa. Let's not be hasty here with a guy with that kind of talent leaving so soon. He's only a redshirt freshman at this point, so he's still got 3 years of eligibility remaining. But it's hard not to ignore maybe the red siren that something might still happen at that position if they're truly looking to, it's one thing, Jason, to be like, you're going to go out and get the number 1 tight end. If Deuce Robinson wants to come, you make room for him. But to offer other tight ends at this point, to me, speaks to maybe a position they think needs an extra guy. And then I ask the question, why? The only reason that I can really deduce is that they're either they're unsure about Juan Davis in some capacity, because that's, to me, the only reason why you bring in 3.
He's 6'6", 220, and literally his coach at Cedar Hill. I mean, he's coached some good players in 17 years, the best catch radius and high point. I mean, it's 6'6" that he's ever seen in his life, and kid never drops a pass. I mean, elite athlete. He's coach said he might. I think he finished 2nd last year, maybe, but this year they're expecting him to challenge for the shot put throwing state championship. So I mean, pretty impressive athlete.
Well, that's impressive.
Yeah, exactly. 6'6", 220. So just a really explosive athlete with just tremendous ball skills and catch radius. So I mean, really intriguing prospect. I get it. He's under the radar. He's committed to Vanderbilt. People see that and like, oh, Vanderbilt, but LSU wants him. I said Nebraska offered. Ohio State's kicking the tires. So, I mean, his stock is really blowing up here in the last couple of weeks.
6'6", 220, and he throws the shot?
I know. Isn't that, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh, wow. But, yeah, and this coach said they expect he might compete for a state championship this year.
That's really – as someone who threw the shot and hated it, I hear that and it doesn't – I would have thought discus.
Well, it's funny you said because coach was like, yeah, he's a disc. No, no, it's shot put. And I was like, oh, okay. So
I would have thought discus, and then it's shot put. And Jason, Anthony Hill, his recruitment is eerily quiet right now. Yeah. I mean, I think there's nothing to really say with regards to when he will decide that's any different than what we said a week ago. But it's crazy to me that he's so important. He's basically the highest remaining prospect in the state that's uncommitted. And every day kind of goes by, and there's just not a lot being said right now behind the scenes about – and I know you reported there's in-homes that are taking place. But doesn't feel like there's been an event yet that's taken place, which is good for Texas.
Yeah, I think so. It is weirdly quiet for such a high-profile recruit. Listen, I could write some BS update on Anthony Hill every day and probably, squeeze a little bit out of a turnip or whatever. But, I don't want to bug Anthony or his family. I'm not going to hit him up every day. I'm like, hey, what's going on today? Hey, what's going on today? You got to kind of pick your spots with these, right? So, I hit up someone close to him last weekend, and that's when they told me that the entire Texas staff, defensive staff, was going in home this week, A&M this weekend, and then Sark going in home next week. I don't really, like you said, there's no to say anything new. I mean, I think it's looking more and more like this sucker is going to go all the way till maybe the first day of early signing period. So the 21st. And I think we mentioned this last week, Catch. Maybe that's by design, man. They just want to kind of keep all the hoopla at bay, and then they're just going to rip that Band-Aid off the sign. Okay, here's where he's going, and so they have to deal with all the drama and distractions. They're doing a good job. If that's what they want to do, they're doing a good job of just kind of keeping everything low and beneath the surface before he makes an announcement. I mean, I'll say it again. I mean, I think I've said this umpteen times. I mean, might he wake up tomorrow and say, hey, I want to go ahead and end it? Could be, but I got a sneaky suspicion. It's been so quiet. He's got these in-home visits. I think this sucker's going to go all the way till signing day. And I'm going to, in our war room tonight, I'm planning on going through a lot of these guys like Anthony Hill, and I'll just kind of put my thoughts together. I said on Cole Patterson and I did a Recruitcast video yesterday, and I said, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago or right after he committed from A&M, I would have said probably 75, 80% Texas, and I would have thought Alabama, maybe the second team. I don't know, man. I think it's Texas and Texas A&M right now, and I'm still favoring Texas, so don't go jumping off the cliff or saying I'm, hitting the panic button or Sukumel's a Debbie Downer or whatever, but I would probably go 60-40, 65-35. I mean, A&M is still hanging around this thing, and he's saying the right things to A&M people too. So I still favor Texas, but it's not the slam dunk that we thought it would be whenever he first decommitted.
It's hard not to recall that he chose, when he decommitted, I started to hear a lot from my sources that, hey, family's pretty pro Texas. When he made his decision in the first place, it's because he wanted to go to Texas A&M. If I don't know that he just hasn't talked. He hasn't done a lot of interviews. Any interviews maybe since he decommitted. It's been very quiet, so there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion about why he decommitted. But this is a kid that once chose to go to Texas A&M from a commitment standpoint out of his own heart and wishes. So you'd probably feel better if you were Texas if it was Alabama or Ohio State or one of these other schools. A&M still, I think you're right, Jason, has at least a fighting chance, especially as long as he keeps taking in-home visits and listening.
Anthony Hill and his family are not the type that are going to just pull a bunch of BS and waste people's time, okay? They're not going to waste Jimbo Fisher's time and A&M's time if they know with 100% certainty that he's going to wind up at Texas. So the fact that they're hosting these in-home visits, knowing the character and the personality of that family, tells me that the door's still somewhat open for A&M and obviously for Texas. So, buckle up, man. I still favor Texas. I'd be, I don't say extremely surprised if it wasn't Texas. I don't want to say mildly surprised, maybe somewhere in between. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Texas in the end. Just a big part of that is, there's confidence on the Texas side. Texas recruits seem to think that things are going well. And I just keep going back to, you just read the tea leaves sometimes, right? Not often a guy decommits and then recommits, a month and a half later, especially a guy with as many options as Anthony Hill. So there are a lot of signs that seem to point to Texas, but we still got 2 weeks, man. This thing could still change on a dime.
Alex, one of the things I think that has people calm on the linebacker portal front is that there seemingly is a spot where Anthony Hill walks in, you tandem him with Jalen Ford, and you've potentially got a real answer to your linebacker needs next year. Then you're trying to replace Tucker Dorsey snaps with maybe a situational guy. Maybe you've already got that guy on campus. I know you wrote about that a little bit in your column today. Like, what are you doing with Maurice Blackwell in terms of where he fits in long-term wise?
Mm-hmm.
In a world where Anthony Hill doesn't pick Texas, that does what in your mind to the position itself with everybody else that's coming back and the magnitude of the need at that point if you're shopping in the portal to try to replace what you thought you would be getting with Anthony Hill?
Well, you better – Jason, we had this discussion before, but it's been so long. I mean, is Derek Brown for sure an inside linebacker?
No, he's talked about playing edge.
Okay. I mean, I just have him with the inside linebackers because you got to put somebody there. You got to put somebody there. Travell Johnson. I mean, I've always thought he was good in coverage, but always more of a sub package guy. Yeah. I thought. Like, so, I mean, you look at it, you're like, well, okay, so you have Jalen Ford. Jet Bush didn't take part in senior day,
but was listed as a senior.
Right. So we don't even know what's happening with him. Other than that, you have David Benda as an inside linebacker who's going to be a senior. He played 59 snaps last year. You got Blackwell. And then other than that, I mean, unless you want to count Derek Brown in there, Travell Johnson, who I think might be a nickel in the end, it's like, I mean, I wish there was more to say. There's nothing more to say. It's so if there's no Anthony Hill, it's like the situation just remains as it is, which is a bright red, flashing, screaming hole on the roster, at one of the inside linebacker spots.
I don't know that these true freshmen can jump in right away, but Darian Gillette is a guy that they feel can be an inside linebacker. He's coming off injury, so we'll see how healthy he is. Samaje Burrell, who, I talked about Kamari and Pimpton. They both play at North Crowley. So while I was talking to Coach Gates, I was talking about Samaje, and I mean, I'm looking at the quote. He said his athleticism jumps off the chart. You're not going to find anyone at his size, ability to run, be physical, strong at the point of attack as he is. Really smart kid, very sharp. Now, Samaje is not going to be an early enrollee, so that may set him back a little bit. But
did you see the video of him on Twitter doing the backflips?
Oh yeah.
He's like a little Mary Lou Retton.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is a tremendous athlete. So, can Samaje, and I did ask, well, could be inside guy or outside? He goes, they haven't really talked about the scheme, but I think he has position versatility where he could do play on the edge or be an inside linebacker for him. So you've got some good young options coming in too.
They really don't. I mean, they have like maybe two good options coming in. And Gillette is he a lock to play inside? I mean,
no,
most people have him pegged as an edge.
When I talked to his coach, he basically said he's such a dynamic athlete that he'll probably start out on the outside playing the edge where he can use his speed and just let him kind of pin his ears back. But ultimately, the long-term goal he views is for him to be an inside linebacker.
It'd be surprising to me to see him come play inside linebacker right away. That's not what jumps out about you when you watch that kid on film is his prowess inside between the tackles.
Yep. So I think Jason's right. He's saying his coach is saying that that's not what he'll do immediately anyway. What I'm saying is it's a 5-alarm fire. Go ahead and scream fire in the crowded theater. Go ahead and do it. If no Anthony Hill, Anthony Hill would go a long way to addressing it, right? But I think as of right now, if you're Texas, you operate as if you're not going to get him, and you figure out, ways to buttress that position, ways to just get some bodies in here. I would think that I would think that a good functional inside linebacker might be one of the easier commodities, some of the lower hanging fruit, right, in the transfer portal. It's not like it's a shutdown corner or a quarterback.
You're exactly
or a stud
right.
left tackle. So
you could even probably in the spring, in May, find a capable guy that can play inside linebacker for you with college experience. The last couple of years, there's been like bushels of those guys that teams they've entered the portal and they've got good stats. I'll tell you what, Devin Richardson's had a teammate and it's probably a poor example. That guy I don't think played anywhere, but at the time, Richardson wasn't even thought of as the best New Mexico State linebacker in the portal.
Yeah.
Because they had an inside guy that wasn't there were just so many of them, and they ended up finding places late. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that the good news is Anthony Hill's got at this point, the 21st, today is the 8th. So we're talking potentially less than 2 weeks from having an answer there. There's more than enough time to do your shopping if you're Texas in the portal from Christmas Day through May.
And here's the other thing. I think what's good for Texas, and obviously don't listen to my recruiting prognostications over what Jason's saying. Jason's coming from a standpoint of actually having talked to these people, actually living this stuff day after day after day. The one thing I've learned about recruiting is you can't get good at covering recruiting unless you do it every single day. I think, honestly, if you take like 2 weeks off or something like that, Jason, I would imagine it's even hard coming home from vacation.
It really,
but
amazing what you miss in a week or
so. So listen to what Jason's saying over what I'm saying as somebody who's like an analyst that just looks at these players and talks about their traits and stuff. Like, I don't know what they're thinking, but I can guess what he's probably thinking. He's already decommitted from A&M. You look at Texas's roster, right? They're showing him that hole in the depth chart. They're saying this is where Anthony Hill goes, right? And we're gonna have Arch Manning's dad call your dad all about it all the time, right? And we're gonna and I think to me in the end, that versus the school you decommitted from, I think it looks good for Texas, just from the complete outsider's perspective, just for what his skill set could do here and just how that puzzle piece would fit together. It feels to me like a pretty easy sell, especially if the program has some momentum on the recruiting front. But still, they can't. It doesn't change the fact they need to go get two of these guys, two of them in the transfer portal, unless we really do think that Maurice Blackwell is going to go from being a very, very, very undersized safety that spun down to play 58 of his 60 snaps this year at an outside sort of specialty speed package linebacker. We're just going to all of a sudden assume that he takes the proper developmental steps with his body to be able to come in and be a down in, down out, weak side, inside linebacker. And then behind him, you're just basically saying, okay, well, David Benda, who's never been anything, or one of the Samaje Burrell, who on Twitter can do flips. You need more than just that. And so I think that, regardless of the pitch that they have for Anthony Hill, you can't just rest on your laurels there, even if you get him. They need to go get more of these guys.
Quick from the super chat. My thought process is no, but I'm seeing from fans they want Brockermeyer. I don't see him starting over Banks, and I also don't see him coming as a backup. I think there's a lot of thought that he can give you depth and play right tackle. But Brockermeyer, both of you guys, I don't know that you're talking about it. Brockermeyer would be a guy that would be a futures guy. I don't think if you need somebody right away, and 2023 is the emphasis of your decision, you probably wouldn't want Tommy Brockermeyer as your first guy.
And I don't think it's out of the question to have him play left guard at all.
Yeah, the other thing is, what do we think long-term Hayden Connor is? Do you think we'll see him get any snaps at tackle this spring?
Not with the way that things are shaping up. No.
You think they'd feel good enough about Cam that just leave Hayden where he is?
Yeah, just from what we're hearing, right? Hasn't that been kind of we've been getting a little Cam Williams drumbeat here the last couple of weeks, Catch. And just when we've been coming with questions about, is Christian Jones coming back? It's like, have y'all heard anything? And it's like, well, the response you get from people behind the scenes is like, I don't know, like they really love Cam Williams. And then it's like, well, they're going after Tommy Brockermeyer, and they're like, I don't know, they really love Cam Williams. So I think that we're getting a Cam Williams drumbeat here.
And I think there was probably, from what I hear, Christian Jones at least had an open mind about returning to Texas potentially. And Texas, I think, was ready for him to kind of move on, be a senior, leave. And that probably does speak to their confidence level in Cam Williams, that they're not flinching at all at the thought that he's the next man up.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. But asking about Hayden Connor, I think the only time that we see, when I think, and I don't even want to say it, but if there's a certain player that manages to get banged up that happens to wear 78, I do think then they backfill with Hayden.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Right, unless there is some kind of Tommy Brockermeyer that comes in and can't maybe win the job at right tackle, but who they like enough, who they think looks good enough to play swing, to be like a swing tackle for them, then I think that Connor would then end up sticking at guard. There's so many permutations and stuff with the offensive lines, how it could go or whatever, where it's like, you could think of a million different scenarios, and we certainly will over the course of the offseason when we figure out what pieces we're going to have to play with. But yeah, I think that's the most likely route that we would see Hayden Connor at a tackle at this point.
Let's go into parting shots. Let's wrap this thing up and move on with the rest of our day. Jason, do you have anything for parting shots today planned?
Nothing planned.
You got any more teases for the war room you want to lay out there?
No, like I said, I'm gonna go position by. I don't know if I'll do position by position, but just kind of the remaining top targets for Texas. Not a big recruiting weekend. Weirdly, we're kind of crunch time, but only one official visitor coming in that I'm aware of. Justin Benton, the defensive tackle, who's committed to West Virginia, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Talked to him Tuesday night. I can't keep my day straight, but if I could put a future cast in for a committed player, the Rivals software doesn't allow us to do that. I would put one in for Texas. Now, he's not coming in with the mindset, don't take this, that he's coming in with the mindset, hey, I'm going to flip to Texas. In fact, I expect he'll take his visit, then he'll go home, kind of talk to his family and make a final decision, maybe on the first day of the early signing period. But this is a kid who likes Texas a lot. Bo Davis went out and did an in-home. His family really likes Bo Davis. Really strong on academics, wants to study pre-med, maybe business. So Texas is going to lay out the red carpet with the Macomb School of Business. But not a big weekend in terms of recruiting numbers, but potentially a big weekend with Texas adding an interior defensive lineman. Texas views him where they're saying, hey, we view him as a guy that can move up and down the defensive line, but I think he's more of an interior defensive lineman.
What does he weigh?
280.
He is
listed at 6'2", 280.
I don't think he's 6'2", just looking at just kind of on film or seeing him in pictures, but 6'2", 275 is what Rivals has him.
Well, I was looking through today, Jason, not to interrupt your deal, but like whenever I was looking at it today, talking about in my column, talking about Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins, where they could line up next year, they do play, like Broughton and Collins specifically, they play them at that jack end, they play him at tackle, and they play him like, 15 snaps Collins got last year at nose. So there are these guys who, when they say you could play him across the defensive line, there are guys who they'll do that with. I mean, so I don't think
I don't
disagree
you can move him.
Yeah,
keep him between the tackles. I don't see this guy lining up, on the outside like he's said he might. But I asked him, is there a player on the Texas roster you compare yourself with? And it's a pretty obvious comparison with just their frame and everything about them, the way they play. But Byron Murphy is who he and Bo Davis have compared his game to. So, I picture him as more of an interior guy. Someone asked a couple times, Derek Williams coming in this weekend. I don't think he's coming in this weekend. His team did, Derek Williams being the Texas safety commitment out of Louisiana. I've actually got a message out to him, and so does Cole Patterson has a message out to his coach. Next weekend, the 17th, is when Texas has their big recruiting weekend. They're getting all their commitments in. Derek Williams' team did lose their state playoff game last weekend, so he's got his weekends free. I'm expecting that he'll be there. His coach, as of yesterday, said, hey, wasn't sure if he'd be there on the 17th. We've got a couple messages into Derek, but I'm thinking there's a really strong chance he comes in now that his team is done playing. The bigger news with Derek Williams is Texas going to be able to get him to sign in December, or is he going to wait till February? He told Rivals.com's Nick Harris he might wait till December. That way he can take some of these other official visits in January. So if Texas can get him in for an unofficial visit, probably I would think on the 17th would be more likely. Maybe that would be a big step towards getting him to sign early. Because if he waits till February, then you got LSU and A&M and Miami and Alabama and these other schools he wants to visit. Then things get interesting. So another question, I know this is my parting shot. Does Hill have a visit planned maybe for that big weekend? I'm not saying I'm expecting him that weekend, but I'm not expecting him that weekend, if that makes sense. Again, it's one of these deals. That's a question I don't want to ask this early because I know what the answer would be, like, hey, we don't know. So I'll probably address that question with Hill and people close to him early next week. But I think there's a really good chance Anthony Hill shows up that weekend. But A&M people think there's a really good chance maybe he pops by College Station one more time too. So kind of read into that.
Who knows? You might do both.
Seriously, I mean, hey, they're close enough with an hour and a half apart, so you can make a little swing through both. And but yeah, nothing planned at last check, Ryan, to answer your question in the chat. But it certainly would not surprise me if Anthony Hill winds up visiting one more time before he makes his final decision. So with that, I'll pass on my parting shots to whoever's next.
Hey, Jason, real quick on Benton. You know what's kind of interesting to me on that is that this staff comes in and is typically they like big guys. I mean, they go Sadir Mitchell, kind of an example of they want these huge monster guys. And, Byron Murphy was kind of a Tom Herman offer. And he's turned out, he's obviously one of their better defensive linemen. But I'm a little surprised that this staff going in late on Benton, a guy who might turn out to be a really good college player. I just kind of surprises me the profile of defensive tackle that they would offer at this point.
Yeah, but if you look at their offers, Catch.
No, he's got some big time offers.
No, I'm not. He does. I'm not saying his offers. I'm saying, Texas has gone after some more prototypical defensive tackles like Marcus Deal. I mean, they've thrown out offers to some real heavy hitters. They just haven't closed. I mean, one thing, Bo Davis recruits well. We all like him and respect his ability as a recruiter, but he has not really closed on that elite interior defensive lineman. I mean, people say Sadir Mitchell. Sadir Mitchell, he may be a great player, but he's not even a Rivals 250 player. So, they did offer some other bigger, more traditional defensive tackle types, but they're just haven't been able to close. They've also got the Trey Pierce kid from Chicago who'll be visiting next weekend. And then they just offered the kid who's committed to Stanford that may or may not take a visit. So, they're really trying to get another defensive lineman in there and in this class, but they just haven't really been able to get anybody on board. So, Benton's kind of the next guy on their list, I guess.
Alex, you got a party shot?
No, I got nothing. Everybody have a great weekend. Do we have football this weekend? We don't have football yet, do we? I guess we have an Army-Navy game or something. You can call it.
No. We've got pro on Sunday. We're not yet it's with 3 weekends to go when they go to the NFL, right? On Saturdays?
Don't they start? Isn't there some of that on the weekend of Christmas? Didn't they start on that on the weekend of Christmas last year? Or was it the weekend of New Year's? I thought it was the weekend of Christmas.
My brain's too scrambled at this point.
Well, we'll have bowl games and bowl pick'ems and all that fun action starting like around the 15th or 16th. So we only got about a week until that stuff. So be a good weekend. Good weekend off here. I got my son's birthday party, so at least that'll be something where I'm not distracted and watching football. And actually, I don't know. I kind of like it better when I have the excuse of going off and watching football and I'm going to talk to all the other parents. Be like, well, he's just over there doing his job. That's just his work. Yeah, now I have to talk to everybody. Oh well. Yeah. Hope everybody has a good weekend, man. That's all.
Likewise, I don't really have much of a parting shot. I will say good luck to Bijan Robinson tonight. They're handing out the major college football award, so the Doak Walker Award will be announced tonight, and he's certainly deserving. If it were to go to Blake Corum of Michigan, I would understand on the level that he had a great year on a great team, but the best running back in college football is Bijan Robinson, and he would be the worthy winner, and I wish him luck. And, it's funny, Texas is kind of the Doak Walker Award school at this point. There been a lot of Longhorns over the years, from Deontay Foreman to Cedric Benson. I'd like to see Bijan add his name to that list tonight. Although Jackie's negative. He's like, I'm preparing himself.
Is there a betting market for that? Bijan's going to win that. There's no way. Bijan doesn't win. It's a lock, dude. I'm actually gonna go look and see if there's a betting market for it.
Ever since Ricky wore 37 in the Cotton Bowl against OU in '98, it feels like the Doak Walker Award committee has been very pro-Texas over the years.
Yeah, there's no way.
If Texas has a running back that can be up for the Doak Walker Award, the Doak Walker Award people like to give it to guys from Texas.
Hey, man, the thing about it is, Catch, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
But if the Doak Walker people say, like, all right, well, which one of these guys was closest to being in New York for the Heisman ceremony? And
the answer to that might be Blake, though. That's the thing. Blake Corum's probably in New York if he doesn't get hurt.
Okay, well, fair enough then. Maybe I shouldn't go see if I could find that betting market.
But that has to do with the fact that he's the best running back on the best team. that runs the ball the most. I mean, he got hurt, and his replacement, Donovan Peoples, had just as much success as Corum did in the last couple of games. So I think Bijan wins tonight. I'm only wishing him well. You guys shouldn't be so negative. My guess is that he will be an award winner by the end of the night, and good for him. And we probably will get the announcement on his future with regards to the bowl game and everything else pretty soon after that. I think after tonight, you'll probably hear some stuff from Bijan. Probably not tonight, but I don't think he'll waste much time once the award stuff is over with. And on that note, for myself, Jason, Alex, for those wondering where Anwar is, he's in San Antonio. Next week, by the way, Jason, Alex, FYI, we're moving the Modcast to Tuesdays moving forward. We just think it's a better day for the Modcast, and allows it to have more people listen to it throughout the week before it gets stale and viewed as old news. So starting next Tuesday, we'll be doing the Modcast on Tuesdays, not on Thursdays. So adjust your settings. It also will help us avoid Christmas and all that other kind of stuff as we get closer to Christmas on the week of Christmas. But for myself, all the guys on the show, the guys over at deadsoxy.com, go check it out. Use your promo code Orangebloods to get the 30% off. I'm not usually into socks, but I'm into the socks over at Dead Soxy.
Wore mine last night, dude. I wore them last night. Incredible.
They've got those nice little grips. They're going to be Christmas gifts to friends and family. You can do the exact same thing. So for the guys at Dead Soxy, go check them out for sure. Until next Tuesday, you guys have a great week.